Hey, Ryan Dahl here, back with another episode of Praise Charts Live. Today we're talking with Bryan McCleery. Bryan is a worship leader, a songwriter. Surprisingly, you will discover that Bryan is behind a massive song that maybe you didn't even realize. And so it's so fun. We get to talk to songwriters and find out what was the community, what's the story, how did these songs come together, what's the culture that brings a guy like this into our world through so much great music. And so I'm looking forward to talking to Bryan. Let's not waste any more time. Let's go with him right now. Bryan, I hear
hey, Ryan. Hey,
you
buddy.
are from San Antonio, Texas. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
I'm telling you, this is what I know about San Antonio, is if you ever want to take your wife for a nice walk, you go to San Antonio and you find that river and you could just go forever. Hey, isn't that like the beauty of that city? Is that right? What's it called? The River Walk or something like that?
Yep, the River Walk. One of my favorite times of the year is taking a boat tour during Christmas because they have all these lights hanging down. It's beautiful.
Oh, yeah. It's stunning. I love your city, the culture of it. It's just so great. And anyway, so glad to have you here. I'm in Langley, British Columbia, from one country to the next. There you go.
Good to be here.
Nice talking. And I hear you are a worship leader at CrossBridge Church. Is that right? Tell me a little bit about the culture of your church. How long you've been there? What's kind of like unique and special about it for you?
Oh man, I love my church.
Great.
I've been there almost 9 years.
Yeah.
It's just such a great place. I feel like so much support and love from the people that I get to serve. And I really do look at it like that as such a privilege to do what I do. I mean, I never in my wildest imagination, I remember being a teenager, kind of just singing my heart out to Jesus around campfires and at Bible studies, but I never thought I would be doing this full time. It was never really something I thought, never dreamed it. And then one day, I was at IHOP, International House of Prayer in Kansas City for 7 years. And then one day this church, random church in San Antonio that I'd never met before, sent me a Facebook message and said, "Hey, we found you on YouTube. We wanted to know if you'd be interested in coming to be our worship pastor." And here we are 9 years later. And the culture has so deepened in our heart for worship and our understanding of the Lord and freedom in our lives and all the amazing things that have blossomed and bloomed around me. I'm just so grateful for. I never thought I would have such a stellar worship team to record live albums with, but here we are. It's just such a great place, great people. Hearts are full of Jesus and alive. It's awesome.
Beautiful. Well, I got to tell you, I was just listening to some of your songs on YouTube. I had it all big on my 38-inch, curved screen here, headphones on. I was like, wow, this sounds so great. And it looks beautiful. It sounds beautiful. The songs are great. We're going to talk about them in a little bit. So isn't it great when you get to do the thing you love to do and suddenly you realize you're making a living at it and you get to do it all day, every day. You just pinch yourself and go, this is great. So
there really is. About once a week, I'll come home and tell my wife, like, is this real? Like, do I really get to do this? I mean, this is amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to tell you quickly about a life moment I had back in January. Is I got to sit on the stage with Charity Gayle. We spoke for about 10 or 15 minutes. And then part of this little thing, I had set it all up where I played a bit of guitar with her. We talked. It was at a choral reading conference. And then I said, you know what my dream would be is to sit down at a grand piano on a stage and just start playing that kind of like opening lick and having Charity sing. So I was like, you're here. I'm here. I'm doing this right now. So I went over to the piano. And we just it was such a beautiful moment playing Thank You, Jesus, for the Blood. And I literally didn't realize, I think I knew this, but I just didn't realize until minutes ago that you had a hand in writing that song. And I just want to tell you, that song has blessed so many people. I mean, beyond Praise Charts, but we've just seen it in Praise Charts. I think it just like held onto that number one spot, which whatever, it's a chart, it's a, positions, but it's just so many people were grabbing on, choirs, orchestras, bands, singers and singing about that, especially at Easter. So I just wanted to say thank you for having a small hand. I think it's cool that there was about 5 people, I think, involved in that. Charity's husband and a few other singers.
I love
Could you just
Ryan.
tell me
He's a
a
good buddy
little
of mine.
bit, tell me something that maybe nobody else knows about, that little
Oh,
community.
man. Well, yeah, we got together at a writing retreat. I think I believe she either knew someone or rented an Airbnb at this beautiful ranch just outside of Houston, and it's a 2.5 hour drive for me, and invited me to come. And I've known Charity and Ryan for many years.
Yeah.
And they're just such sweet people. Love them so much.
Good.
And some of the most encouraging people you're ever going to meet. And Ryan and I, man, we every time we get together, we hurt from laughing.
Yeah,
but
he's a bit of a ham,
anyway,
isn't he?
He's funny. He's awesome.
Yeah.
We have some great inside jokes. But
Anyway,
so yeah, we got together I think there was about 5 of us. Yeah, and really the song, we were just writing a song about the cross, and I never. You approach these co-writes kind of with an open hand of Lord, we're serving your church by giving your church language, and you're hoping that God would breathe on these songs, but I never imagined that he would breathe on that song so much. And it's to see it even how much of a resurrection song, an Easter song it's just the full gospel.
Right.
And
right.
It's a blessing to be a part of it. So
Beautiful.
Great people, awesome team. Yeah.
Well, can we
I was there the night of the recording as well. It was amazing.
Yeah. Oh, I love that whole video, all the songs. If any of you haven't seen it, I'm sure most of you have, but it's just go get lost in that world. It's a real special time. So, well, let's
that same. Oh, go. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, let's spin off of that a little bit, because I wanted to talk about co-writing with you. I know that you're very vested into training up worship leaders and songwriting yourself. And I mean, these days, songwriting means you have to know how to both write and co-write. Co-writing is a thing of like just working with other people, embracing their ideas, holding on sometimes to ideas you really feel committed to. I mean, I can just imagine the process and the complexities, the interpersonal complexities that go on. Could we talk a little bit about that in particular? Just
sure.
The process and some of the challenges, and maybe give us a few tips as to how we can work well in a small group that's trying to craft a song.
Yeah, I think the best co-writing advice I've ever gotten came from my wife.
Okay.
And she simply said, Bryan, be a blessing.
Right.
Just be a blessing to the people in the room and encourage people. And what I've found is it doesn't just keep the energy flowing in the room when you're encouraging people and not, I don't know, being so idealistic that you shut down people's ideas, but you're encouraging the creativity and you're saying, yeah, let's chase that. Let's see where it goes.
Right.
I always tell people at the very beginning of a co-write, I say, like, maybe for every 20 ideas I have, there's one good one.
Right.
And so you're not gonna offend me if we don't chase down, the direction that I'm feeling. And so I'll present some ideas, but ultimately it's such a fun collaboration process. I used to think when I was really, young in my early 20s that I had to write like the best song ever and it had to all be me. And that really is pride. And that, that comes down to like insecurity, a couple of other things. But when I really let that go, I realized the best thing you can possibly do is to, instead of holding your songs like little babies or darlings close to your chest, the best thing you can possibly do is open up your art and let someone take a look at it.
Yeah.
And really tweak it and refine it, because it comes down to your purpose. If your purpose is to one of the things I feel my purpose is to put truth in the truth of the word in the mouth of the people of God.
Right. Yeah.
And so when I can do that, when I can help them, give them language for connecting with the Lord, worshiping Jesus, exalting Jesus, there's so many barriers that come down. And it really is, I always tell my people at my church, I can't sing your song for you. That your confession of truth matters, and no one else can confess for you. And so that's kind of the way I approach songwriting, and I've learned so much. I mean, gosh, man, it's one of my favorite things to do. I would say alongside worship leading, songwriting just makes me come alive. I
Yeah.
feel like, I just love doing it.
Yeah.
Something I could do every day and just be, oh man, stoked on life.
Well, I love the posture that you were saying of you coming into a group and even somehow maybe half jokingly saying, if for every 20 ideas I have, one might stick. But suddenly it positions you of like, listen, I'm not coming in here with, we got to do all my ideas kind of thing. It's sort of a posture of humility. And then I even like that little phrase, let's chase that. It's like, it's a kind of a fun way of saying, hey, I like your idea. Let's see where it goes. I mean, anyone in songwriting, you could even take that little phrase and use that. It just feels like, oh, he likes what I just, offered, that little hook or thing. And then if we could all share that in a community, I was going to ask you, if you don't mind, like when you do co-writing, do you think it's better to come in with some I've got my ideas and I'm ready to just spell them out to you? Or does it seem better if you come in with a blank slate, because then you're more positioned and posture to really hear other people? Like if you have an agenda already, does that sometimes affect that process?
Yeah, I think coming in, like I was saying, open-handed with, here's my ideas, but we don't have to chase them. So I record stuff in my phone all the time in my voice memos. If anyone grabbed my phone and scrolled through that, it would be like my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'll actually put like a fire emoji or a 100 emoji next to the ones that I think are somewhat good.
Yeah.
And so I'll take those to most of the co-writes I approach, and maybe I'll grab one or two or three of them and say, hey, this style or this vibe or message might be a good fit with this person that I'm writing with. But even still, it is one of those things to where if I'm writing for an artist specifically, where they might have a vision for a specific song, I'll just kind of dig and kind of like try to understand. I think a lot of it happens in the conversations before the write. What is God doing in your life? What is He putting on your heart? And usually when we talk about the things that God is doing in our life and putting in our heart, and working in us and through us, we tend to write a lot more authentically. Yes. And that to me is one of the best places you can write from, because you're writing from your experience. And so, I think it's a bit of both, just kind of coming with some ideas. I always think that's a huge plus, to come with some ideas but at the same time, ask other people in the room, hey, what are you feeling? Do you like this? Do you want to go this direction? Or are you feeling like we should chase something else?
Would you say your church is a culture where you're wanting to sing more songs that you've written in-house? Or like what's your encouragement to churches who are like, how much should we chase our own songs versus look for the great ones? Like, do we really want to pass up on Thank You for Jesus for the Blood? I mean, it's such a great song. And sometimes if we just are too focused on writing our own songs and we're not, that developed yet, then so what do you encourage a church maybe to pursue songwriting, but to find like a healthy balance of finding great songs and still being invested in it ourselves?
Yeah, it's funny you say balance, because that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, I
think that there is a sound that needs to come out of every body. Every gathering, every group, every church should have their own unique sound where it's kind of tied into the message that God has given that specific group of people. And in my church, we talk a lot about freedom. We talk a lot about just our life coming alive, a lot of faith, and a lot of just transformation. And I think for me, a direction I tend to write in is Lord, help change my perspective, give me faith. And when it comes to a church that's songwriting, I would say there has to be a good balance. And one of the reasons I say that is because as I've been leading for, leading worship for almost 2 decades now. It's crazy to say that.
And you're only 27, so
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm only 25, bro.
Yeah.
No. So what I feel like I've gathered is, and this is not a perfect science, but from what I've seen in the room from the people that I'm leading, is that the first time someone hears it, the first time someone hears a song, they're learning it. By the second time they hear it, maybe they can sing along with it.
Yeah.
And then by the third time they hear it, I believe by that third time, their heart is engaged with what they're singing. And
Yeah.
so there has to be some familiarity with what we're singing, and very few songs can do all three at the same time. And some songs are like that. They're super singable corporately, and they have a melody that's not too hard for everyone in the room to sing, but there's truth in there that brings conviction and that causes everyone in the room to just agree and worship. And sometimes songs can nail all three, and that's awesome. That's what we all want and shoot for.
Yeah.
But most of the time when you're introducing a new song, your people are hearing it for the first time. And my goal as a worship leader is I'm hoping to remove all distractions, all barriers, and really create an atmosphere or provide a space for encounter with Jesus.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is, if that's my goal, then one of the best ways we can serve the people that we're leading is to sing songs that we don't know the songs that everyone knows, but we can imagine, hey, maybe this person's heard this song. It's very typically sung in churches, how great is our God, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where it just kind of gets people open, and I would say it opens up their heart in worship a bit faster that way. So familiarity is great, but also there's a reason why he says sing a new song to the Lord in the Bible.
Right. Yeah.
And I feel like I mean, it's just like David. He sang about the beauty of Jerusalem. He sang about where he was from, and I believe that when we are cultivating a real life in God, and that stuff, that the things that we're growing in, learning in, comes out in our singing and in our songs, there's power in that.
Right.
And there's power in our testimony. So I believe that the testimony of the captive, it can set other people free. So
beautiful.
There's just so much power in it. Yeah.
Well, I want to take some time to talk about some of the songs you have been writing. So we're just going to look at them, and you can maybe talk to me about some of the lyrics and things like that. But while we're doing that, I'm just noticing there's a few people listening in live. I see Glenn and Cory, Albert, Daria, Kevin. If there's a few others, and if you have a question you want to poke in and I look at it, and if it feels like appropriate, do you mind, Bryan, if we just shoot from the hip here, and maybe someone's got a question about songwriting?
Let's go.
We could just hey, we're here, we're live, let's do this. But for now, let's look at, Bryan, I forgot to add you. So just give me a second here. There you go. I've got you.
I think I was supposed to add myself, and
I got you. I got you. You're all fine. Okay. So let's you picked the song. I've got we already talked about Thank You Jesus for the Blood, which has been great, but this one, Bigger Than Impossible. I mean, I think these songs are just kind of coming out. So why don't you talk us through a little bit about where these songs came from? What's the core lyric? Maybe if there was a co-writing session, take us in behind that world a little bit. I would love to hear that. So let's do it.
Yeah, Bigger Than Impossible came out about a little over a month ago, and really this one started during a prayer session with my church, and I just it was one of those moments where I'm kind of off in the corner. We're praying as a staff, and I'm off in the corner kind of singing, looking down at my guitar, and I grab my phone and say, maybe this verse is actually worth something here. So I captured the verse and I brought it to a friend of mine named Meredith Malden. She started songwriting at UPPERROOM many years ago, and kind of has championed a group called Song Lab, where they train and equip up and coming songwriters. And I've been working with her for a number of years now, actually probably only maybe 2.5, 3. But during the pandemic, actually, I think in 2020, we jumped on a Zoom and I said, hey, I've got this idea. Maybe we can finish this song. And I think it took 2 different Zoom rights, but that one specifically, oh my gosh, I'm thinking, make sure I'm remembering the right song here. But I think that one talks about shifting our perspective, right?
Bigger than the mountains. Every mountain.
Yes. So in the bridge, that's one of my favorite parts. Is let me see. I'm looking for. Here we go. So I forget some of my own songs I write.
Oh
That's
yeah,
funny.
no problem.
I will lift my eyes. You will lift my faith. When you're magnified, my perspective begins to change.
Yeah.
And that to me, is the power of worship, man. I mean, it really is. That is something that I believe should happen in worship, because when God is magnified, it's not that our problems and our things are diminished, but we come into agreement with a greater reality. And I feel like trusting that the Lord sees what we're going through,
Yeah.
and gives us a perspective that causes us to soar on wings like eagles, to rise above the things that bring pain and turmoil, and everyone at this point in the pandemic. I mean, gosh, we were writing from a real place of just needing a lifeline, like
Yeah.
just needing something to sing that could pull us up out of our situation. And so, and then it goes on to say, you remind me of who you are. Nothing stands in your way. Doubt and fear must bow at the mention of your name.
Yeah.
And that to me is just, gosh, and again, it's just coming into agreement with the greater reality.
Yeah.
and reminding our soul in the chorus that he's bigger than everything that we think is impossible, that he's holding us together. And that song was really fun. In the second verse, there's in the second line of the second verse, it says, you gather brokenness, recovering the past, made better than before, you're filling in the gaps. And that there's a Japanese art called kintsugi. And when a vessel is broken, I think I pronounced that right. I probably might have butchered it. I'm not really sure. So when a vessel is broken, what they do is they actually fill in the gaps with gold, and it just makes the vessel even more beautiful. And so they don't throw it away. They actually make it look even more beautiful than before.
Yeah.
So the restoration process is just. That's what we get with Jesus. He takes our brokenness and makes us whole and complete. And because of that brokenness, we now have a testimony, and he puts us on display and shines a light in us and through us. And it becomes something that is not the brokenness is not our identity, but the fact that we've been restored and renewed is our new identity. And so this one just kind of, I love this one. It helps me. It just gives me so much hope, and it fills me with so much faith to believe that he's bigger than the things that surround us.
Yeah. And definitely reflective of the whole season we've been through in the last couple of years. In fact, it's kind of a unique season that we're in right now, where some of the songs that are coming out now are ones that have been written in the last couple of years, and they sort of reflect that we need some help. We need a God that's bigger than impossible, and still as relevant today as it was, 2 years ago or 1 year ago or whatever. We're all still in various processes of challenges in our our lives now. So it actually just, we won't dive into this too much, but I know that you're just going through a unique season right now, just in the last month. I was sharing with you how I had lost my father a couple of years ago, and yours just passed 2 weeks ago. And that's certainly like a life challenging situation, causes you to think about, man, what has been poured into me over the last 25 years? Tell me a little bit about what mark he left in your life.
Oh man, gosh. Well, he was always such a steady rock. He was always so consistent, and gosh, I learned so much from my dad, how not only just how to be a hard worker, but how to keep my word. And so I moved out of the house, and his relationship with Jesus became so much more real. And gosh, the Lord softened his heart over the last probably 20 years. He developed a relationship with Jesus in a way that he didn't have when I was a child. It was more than just going to church and checking off a box. It was like he really came alive in the things of the Lord. And it was definitely came out of nowhere. He was 76, I believe.
Yeah.
There's it was such a powerful memorial service. We went to, he was in the Navy for 25 years, and then he worked in Homeland Security and FEMA for another, I believe 20 after that. And maybe it was 15. Anyway, he eventually got to a level of GS-14 and has been, I probably shouldn't say this, but anyway, I probably shouldn't say any more things about I probably shouldn't say anything about his clearance level, but anyway, but he kind of higher up in the government, and he it was very moving, his memorial service at the military funeral burial ground. He got, the gun salute and the folding of the flag, and you see that kind of thing in the movies, but man, when it's your dad, your mom,
oh my goodness.
I mean, there wasn't, obviously there wasn't a dry eye in the place, and I love my dad. And I think I have so much peace about it. And it's so weird to say that because it sounds kind of cliche, right? Like, well, I know where he is. And so when you bury a person's body, you're not really burying them. It's just the shell they were living in. But when that happened, I felt such closure, and I felt such, peace knowing that he's with Jesus, and he got to go. Here's the crazy thing. He got to go see Jesus on Holy Saturday. Right before Easter.
Oh, wow.
And I think that, to me, I mean, could you imagine a better time to arrive?
Yeah.
It's like,
I'm here just in time.
Well, you know what's also funny is I was telling my daughter, I was like, Lily, Grandpa is with Jesus in heaven on Easter. And imagine what that's like to celebrate Jesus on Easter Sunday. And then she's like dropping some wisdom bomb on me. She goes, they don't celebrate Easter in heaven. And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, well, God's outside of time, and they celebrate Jesus every day. And I was like, yes, they do. It's like, oh man, she's just dropping this wisdom.
Point taken. Very good. That's awesome. Okay. Hey, by the way, just flipping back here, and thank you so much for sharing that. I love hearing stories of legacy and passing on, and and now what you're passing on to your daughter, the through the generations. It's beautiful to see it go through. Natasha was just helping me. Natasha's actually our business manager here at PraiseCharts, but she was like, there's the word. You see it there? Kintsugi. There you go. A Japanese method for repairing broken ceramics with a special lacquer mixed with gold, silver, or platinum. I think that's a beautiful picture. So thank you for that. That's great. Hey, how about one more song we can kind of look at? I pulled up Mighty Redeemer here. That's from another, is that a single or another collection?
So that one, actually, I think you guys have that. I guess we're making the announcement here. That's the next single that hasn't released yet.
Hopefully we didn't put it out too early.
No, that's okay. That's all right.
Get it.
I believe it comes out. Oh gosh, I should know this, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
I believe it comes out the 3rd of June.
Okay.
I might be mistaken. I have the 3rd of June.
Oh.
I have like a little calendar next to
Apparently it's on PraiseCharts right now, so don't tell anyone.
Right.
So.
Yeah. That one's not out yet, but we love singing that one at my church. And again, that one's just all about Jesus and what he carries us through. And
I've seen David Moffat's name on a number of songs as well. He's a common songwriter. So what's your connection with David?
Oh, yeah. We met up at Capitol in Nashville one day, and I had just met him. And man, this song, it was kind of like you said, it came together with I believe it was either the chorus or the bridge on my phone. And I just brought this to him, and I was like, hey man, maybe this could be a good direction for us. And what we came up with that day, it just came together so beautifully. I love writing with him. It's something that felt really effortless.
Yeah.
I'm one of my strengths, at least back then, one of my main strengths was melody. We probably rewrote the chorus melody wise about 5 times until we landed on that melody. So that one was really fun. I'm trying to see.
I got the lyrics here if you can see on my screen. So
okay, yeah.
You got so many songs. We got to remember them all, There is no mountain that you can't move. There's no ocean you can't carry me through. You're my safety and my rescue. I'm never hopeless because I still have you.
Yeah. 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 So again, it's one of those, I love writing about lifting up our eyes.
Yeah.
There's a song that I wrote, probably, I guess back in 2019 it released, called He Wears a Crown. And that one, is all about lifting up our eyes as well. And, trusting that Jesus is more than enough. And, so this one is kind of along those same lines. This one's been really fun to sing at church. We're doing the strategy, I guess, what we're releasing right now is we're releasing 4 live singles, and then we'll be releasing another, actually, I think, radio version of He Wears a Crown, and then a full-length album after that.
Right.
So with some studio songs and everything.
And it'll all be on PraiseCharts, probably a little bit early. So, come there and there you go. So beautiful. Hey, just moving on a bit from songwriting, just kind of like last topic as we're going in, but I know you also have a real heart for raising up worship leaders. Mm-hmm. So I just one question I wanted to ask, maybe we could riff on this a little bit, but beyond having a great voice or being able to play your instrument well, what would you say comes to mind if I say, what are you looking for in a worship leader where you're like, oh, that person has something that needs to be explored. We need to chase that. Yeah. Like, when do you think that about a person? What kind of characters do you find you're looking for? Could you tell me about that?
That's a great question, man. Since I've been at my church, I think I've been, like I said, so honored and privileged to be able to raise up 6 or 7 worship leaders that some of them have gone on to other churches. One is in Houston now, and I have two worship residents with me right now. And I would say one of the things, there's so many things that I look for. I think there's obviously the heart for worship, and really just a willingness to receive from the Lord a teachability, I think, but also there's it's so hard to put words to this. You asked a good one, man.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah. There's no preparation for this. I didn't feed you the questions. I didn't even. Thought, but I'm interested myself because, we talk in PraiseCharts. This is not, I'll just give you a little time. You think while I talk for 2 minutes here.
Sounds good.
But in PraiseCharts, not as worship leaders, but we look for what we call the PraiseCharts DNA. Anyone on my team listening will know what I'm talking about. It's just like we think about people we want to work with, and there's like something in their eyes, their face, the way they carry themselves, the way they talk, the way they feel about the music and the stuff we do. And it's not just staff, it's also, people in industry or other resources, or we're just like, I just want to work with those people. And there is it's like a cross of humility and confidence. I think that's probably what it is. It's like that unique merge of humility and confidence that's like, okay, we could do something together. So anyways, there's my little bit, but
I think that's so true. There's a big piece of humility. And again, that's what, like, when we understand how big God is, it doesn't like there's a perspective shift that I'll put it to you like this. There's a lot of young up and coming worship leaders these days that see the fruit of someone's life, where I could think of a number of names, but I won't name anyone, that maybe they really look up to this certain worship leader, worship artist, and they really want the fruit. Yeah. But they also don't see the history that has taken 10 maybe years to put their root system down. And in order for a tree to bear fruit, the roots have to go deep. And the limbs have to be strengthened, and that requires a certain amount of trust in the Lord, in the process that He is the faithful shepherd, that He's the one that is going to give us ground to be planted in, and for us, our part of that is just to say yes.
Yeah.
Our part of it is to come into agreement with what he's given us. And we don't always get to pick the people that God puts in our lives, but we do always get to pick how we respond to them. And that just, that means like we might there may be worship leaders listening to this that are in a really tough situation, and they may not feel the support and love that they wish they would. But when they're serving as unto the Lord, when they're doing what they do in the house of God, for him, not for all the other, plethora of reasons that we could insert in there. But I think God honors that, and he sees that, and he is the rewarder of those who diligently seek him. And so, so there is like you said, there's a humility aspect. There's the integrity to steward the gifting that is in someone. I understand this when I'm looking at a worship leader that I would love to run with this person, is like, are they willing to go through the painful process or the messy process of growing? Right. Because growth is a messy process. And that's something I tell my leadership team is, hey, this person, it may be rough right now, but you give this person 2 years, and if they dedicate themselves to really, faithfully stewarding what God has given them, I think the result of that is so beautiful. And I just, it's one of my favorite things to do, because I feel compelled as a worship pastor, if I'm not passing the baton on to the next generation, then who's going to do it? That's kind of where the heart behind all of it comes from. And it's just one of my favorite things to do, is to help train and equip worship leaders.
Beautiful. Well, I was going to ask, use Glenn's question here. What's your passion and what really excites you in music to kind of close out? But it seems like you have just said that. Hey, you have a real passion to pass this on to the next generation. That's really in your heart. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Music has always been something to me, even before I got saved. When I was, I think 12 years old, I got my first guitar. And for me, what music means to me is, even when I got saved, I think I was 15 years old. This is going to really date me, back in 1998. But during the Brownsville revival, all of that time, the Lord really woke my heart up to realize that he was the one I needed. And it's been an amazing journey since then. But what worship and what music has been for me is, it really was my ability to, like, I learned how to pray just by singing my heart to Jesus in my bedroom as a teenager. And that to me, it just gave me language, when I add melody to lyrics, when I add melody to music, it really just gave me it was like a vehicle for me to be able to talk to God. And obviously my relationship with him is deeper now, but I think music for me it's always been so life-giving and so filled me with so much hope.
Yeah.
So
beautiful. Well, Bryan, thank you so much for taking us on a journey through so many things, sharing your songs with us, sharing your heart for songwriting and worship leading. This has been a very easy, natural, and I think inspiring conversation. So I'm glad that we got to have this time together.
Well, thank you for inviting me on. I appreciate it. It's good to be able to talk to you guys.
And we just appreciate. Awesome. We just appreciate you letting us release your music before anybody else gets it. Like, I just love that. So sounds great. Well, I hope we're going to put links to Bryan's music in our show notes here, and I hope you'll check out some of his new music. And if you want an old classic, I mean, Thank You, Jesus, for the Blood will go great anywhere, anytime. It's a legend song. It's like, it goes up there with the How Great Is Our God and 10,000 Reasons. You're part of writing a song for our times, and we're super grateful for you. So thanks for that.
Well, thank you, Brad. Yeah,
right
it's
on.
An honor, man.
Okay, thank you very much. And check in with us next time at PraiseCharts Live. This is Ryan Dahl and Bryan McCleery. other session. So now now I close the video. Now we can go and talk like this. But I'll tell you, this is my like what my mind says is we're up in Canada, so how would we ever do that? Like, people don't come here.
Yeah.
You know, we're not like in Austin, Texas or something like that. I don't know, but we have that.
Stop recording?
Yeah, I did.
No, it's not still streaming.